Yes. Okay, how to teach listening. So in this webinar, actually, we go through the different strategies for teaching listening to adults, teenagers, and children. And we discuss different approaches. And at the end, how to write the lesson plan for that part. So the very first question, why is listening important in learning language? What would you say?
That's kind of
Why listening skill is very important. Go ahead, please.
that's a kind of first skill that we acquire, the listening, and we learn to speak from listening, like how babies learn to speak.
Yes. Thank you.
We gather data.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. You get familiar basically with the language, right? The tone, pronunciation, body language, right? Yeah. When you're watching someone who's talking the target language, that language, you learn a lot of things. So it said people who speak well normally listen well.
Interesting.
So it is very important. It's a very important skill because you learn the language naturally. That was nice. Our Shwati said that like babies, like children, that's the way they learn the language, right? They listen for 2 years almost, or 1 year and a half. And then they start talking. So they get the data, right? The knowledge and they aim to start imitating on pronunciation and talking the and using the words. Okay, so here's another question: what is active listening? Yes, Michelle.
So yeah, you can see my face here. I'm giving this a proper little think. My understanding of active listening is listening for key information without having a formulated response pre-prepared.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, while you're driving and the radio is on, news, music, then weather, broadcasting, or I don't know, different things on the radio. Okay, and sometimes they send they talk about the specific news or they explain it or advertise. I was looking for the ads and everything. Is that active listening, or it could it be active listening?
It would depend if you can engage with it and you're
Yeah.
thinking as you're listening, because sometimes music can be passive, not all the time, but it can be, where you're not really thinking of what the words are saying or the tone of the song. But when you're listening and you're actually engaging, that's when you start thinking about, you're paying attention, basically. Yeah.
That's the key word. When you pay attention, that's active listening. And you try to remember. In your class, what is active listening in your class? You start asking, when you explain something, we always say we need to do concept checking questions. So you have to ask questions in between. Just check your students are listening to you actively. Otherwise, they're watching you, but they're daydreaming. That's the thing. Then when you ask them a question, they say, huh? See? So they are not active listeners. But how we can persuade them, how we can motivate them by asking questions, right? By asking questions and get them involved. Listening is the same as, listening is the same as reading. Okay? It's a receptive skill. So they get the knowledge. But there are two types of listening: intensive and extensive. We discussed it, on the webinar, right, reading. But do you have any ideas what is intensive listening activities and extensive listening activities? Any ideas?
Maybe intensive is when you're actually like creating like conversation and dialogue, versus extensive is like you are like seeing a lecture being recorded or you're actively just listening at a lecture, because that's like an hour to 2 hours of just listening what the teacher has to say.
Thank you. Any other ideas? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, Michelle, you wanted to say something?
Well, I don't know. I'm just going with a thought here. Just intensive being internal and extensive being external. As to how that branches out, I don't know. Those are my first thoughts.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, as you said, I mean, both are correct. Intensive listening as a part of the lesson in the class. The teacher starts to put the students in the context, teach them vocabulary like keywords, and then review the grammar, ask them some questions. So the students have to listen to the listening actively. They answer to the questions. They go through it. They say their ideas. So they study it actually in the class. And even they have some assignment to do about it. But extensive listening is still is good for learning the language. They get like the listening to some music, listening to some lectures or different apps. They listen and they shadow, they repeat. Still, it's good for them for learning the language because they get familiar with the tone. They get familiar with the conversation, like stress, different dialogues. So it's good for learning, but they can choose. They can choose what topic to listen to, like listening to audiobooks. They can choose which audiobooks. So in extensive, it's mostly depends on their own taste, the student's taste, and they can choose it to listen it for 1 hour or 10 minutes every day or once a week. So they have the material and they can click on it or download it and listen to it. But intensive is like an assignment and study in the class. That's the main difference between these two. So for teaching, after teaching, you need to practice. This is the second step. And when we put it on the process, the first was pre-teaching task, while teaching task, and post-teaching task. What we did in pre-teaching task, the process of teaching. Pre-teaching task is a time that
we plan lesson plans and
no, it's in the class. It's in the class and the process of teaching. So pre, while, post. Pre is
ice-breaking stage. We create a rapport.
Yes. What else? We said we always put the students in the context. We cannot jump in the class and start teaching, correct? So we have to create the concept. If the listening is about environment, so we start asking them some questions about their favorite weather. How's the weather now? What about the issues that they have in their country? Oh, yeah.
Sorry, this is the elicitation that we talked about?
Yes, even elicitation is a part of that. Even elicitation is a part of that. So basically, in pre-teaching task, you prepare the students for the part that you want to teach. Put them in the context, elicitation, start from known to unknown, asking them some question that they can talk about and they can familiar with the topic. Then depends on the level of the students and depends on the difficulty of the listening. You need to pre-teach the keywords. Okay. If you think there are some of the keywords or main words that the students may not know, so definitely you have to teach it in pre-teaching phase. So you introduce the vocabulary and to help them to concentrate, you can give them some questions, comprehension questions, or some activity that help them to concentrate. Like they are going to listen to listening about environmental problems in Indonesia, right? So you ask 3 questions. What is the main problem? What have they done recently? Okay. And what's the result? So you put the questions on the board. Or you put the questions, you share the question with the students. Then you're going to play the listening. So you help the students to focus. All this happen in pre-teaching task. Then you get to while teaching task. Why? That's the second phase. What about the while teaching task? It's a task that the students need to practice. So you prepare different activities, like lessons for the gist. They listen to them and they say what they get. Listening for specific information, like detailed questions. When it happened, who was involved? Listening for like more details, like fill in the blanks. They have to listen. They have some sentences with blanks and they have to listen and they find a specific word in the listening to fill in the blanks. Listening for, they listen and then after that they role play. They listen and they talk about the attitude of the speakers or their mood, even their intention. Even in the middle of the listening, you can pause it and say, what do you think? What happened next? Maybe it's about some events that happen or a kind of celebration. Or maybe it's about the story part. So you can pause it and say, tell me what happened next. In this way, you're checking their comprehension, how far they could get the story. So in the second phase, which is a while teaching task, it's a part that you practice the listening part. Okay? Is that clear so far?
Ma'am, what's the second stage? Why teaching?
While, WHILE, while teaching task.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
And what's next? So I put them in the context, elicitations happen, and then they get familiar with the new vocabulary. Then they have different activities to practice. The third phase is post-teaching task. Now's the time I get the feedback and I need to check with my students how well they have learned. Okay, how well they have learned. So I can ask, like, which part of the listening you like most? Which part you agree with? Which part you disagree? Okay, or tell me what you understood. So they give you a summary. Or do you think like this story that you listened to happened in your neighborhood? Have you heard about that kind of story? Have you read any books about that story? So you just check with your students how much they've learned. Even it depends on the listening. If it's an interview, you can put them in pairs and say, okay, now's the time to practice and act out and role play in the class. So in the third phrase, which is post-teaching task, is a part to get the feedback. And then you can assess your students, how well they learn, or they need to practice more. These three phrases goes for intensive listening. Because it's a part that they have to learn the vocabulary, they need to practice, and then you get the feedback. But for different listening activities, like listening to different dialogues, you can share with them different apps. They listen to the interviews, they listen to the music, they listen to the news on the radio, even watching movies or films, listening to podcasts, stories or novels, audio stories or audio novels. They're all goes for extensive listening, which is nice. They get familiar, they have more exposure to the language, they get familiar with that language. And how can you get feedback? It happens out of the class, right? Because they choose different topics based on their taste. But when you get into the class, you can ask them, what did you listen to? Which podcast did you listen to? Or which stories you've started? Did you watch any new movies, any series? Tell me, what was it about? So you in the class, you ask them to talk about the characters, to talk about the main message, to talk about different plots or why they like it, why they don't like it. So again, they practice what they have listened to in the class. Okay? That is extensive. These are different activities you can have for extensive. Depends on the level, the activities are different. Like for lower level, you say listen and repeat. Like for grade 1 or 2, they're learning French. So they have to listen and repeat to get familiar with pronunciation. Okay? Or they have to listen, and sometimes you ask them to listen and act for TPR. Like open the door. They don't say anything. They go and they open the door. Or like fly like a bird. They start doing this. That's acting. Even drawing, which is good for children. They listen to something and then, and now I want you to draw the story. Because children love drawing and coloring. Predict what happened next. Guess what's the answer. Labeling, right? Labeling. Like you put some pictures around and it said, okay, I want you to listen and label. Or match it with the different characters. You see the people, the picture of the different people. Listen to their characteristics and can you match it with the correct picture? And tell me why you choose that picture. Or put the pictures in the right order based on the listening. So different activities. You can have different activities, not always comprehension questions. Talking about process, pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. So tell me, if you want, the listening is about someone who's talking about his career. How do you put the students in the context? How do you start with pre-listening tasks? Give ideas. The listening is about per person who started at a coffee shop and talks about his interests and why they opened the coffee shop, when he opened the coffee shop, and talking about the career. Well, how do you put them in the context? Or pre-listening.
I have a question. The carrier, what do you mean by the carrier? Maybe I'm just a bit slow here, but.
Okay, it's a listening like about Joe.
Sure.
Joe starts talking about his career. He opens a coffee shop.
Oh, his career.
And the whole listening, yes, and the whole listening is about Joe. That why he opens the coffee shop, what happened, when they open, why he choose this career. Okay, that's a listening about. So I want to see, you know what's the listening about, but you want to teach it. What was the first phase? Pre-listening task. So you want to put the students in the context and start elicitation. What would you do? How do you start it?
I mean, for me, there'd be so many angles. I mean, we want to listen to, so we're going to listen to this person talk about a career in opening a coffee shop. So this person is an entrepreneur and this is apparently their passion. I mean, maybe I would ask the students, assuming we're dealing with adults and I'm tracking with you, you know, and say, does anybody drink coffee? Do we like coffee? Does anyone own a business? Or is family or friends with someone who owns a business? Have you ever dreamt about owning a business? We're going to listen to someone who is open to business. So I don't know. I'm just brainstorming with you here. I don't know. These are my thoughts.
Thank you. Very good. What about you, Daniela, Carmelo, and Ashwati? What would you do? You do the same thing or what?
I would ask a bunch of questions about their ambition, like what before I move and show them about somebody's dream job or whatever they achieved. I'll start by saying, what's your ambition? What's your long-term goal? What do you want to become? And they will give me some answers. Then I'll say, yeah, here is a person who opened a coffee shop. Let's listen to this. And maybe I'll ask them to, if he have explained like how he started the coffee shop, how he ended up doing the job which we love, or anything, whatever the conversation was, I'll ask them to tell me, like if they have, for example, somebody wants to become a teacher, how the coffee shop
Yeah.
owner have explained himself. They will have to find words and sentences and explain themselves, like how they are going to be as a teacher in future. What are they doing? What are the actions that they are doing today? So I'll ask them by their ambition and goal and show them somebody else's and go back to them again and explain it. Ask them to.
Okay, thank you very much. Daniela, what about you? How would you start?
I think I'd start with the meaning, like what does it mean for them to want to do similar, like a business, and how would they go about it, like the little steps they're gonna take. Is it that they're gonna research about it? And if they're gonna research about it, how are they gonna research about it? Like, I don't know, I feel like that's where I would start, just so I can gauge their ability to do what they say they're gonna do. I don't know if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Carmela, do you have any ideas? Basically, your webcam is off, so I cannot see you.
I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I'm having issues with my video. I could fix it, I guess, but I'm gonna have to reboot everything, and it's gonna take me another.
Yeah, I understand it. So how would you start your this?
So this pre-listening, this is really just an introduction, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if you have to
yes, you
summarize
put
it,
your students in the context so they get prepared to listen to the listening part.
right. So, I mean, I guess there is no real, like a formal template. Whatever you feel, at that particular moment, you're going to do the introduction for the students. Right?
So we imagine you have 10 students in front of you and they're
Yes.
all adults.
Right.
So how would you start it?
Well, so with the pre-listening, it sounds like I or we would be asking the students questions that get them interested in the topic to come.
Okay, what would you ask? The listening is about a person who's talking about his new career, which is opening a coffee shop.
How long have you wanted to be this? How long have you wanted, to be, doing this type of career? What's your background? Are you?
What's your career? What's your background?
Yes.
Do you like yours? Career? Do you want to change it? Okay,
Have
these
you
kind of
actually been
questions.
to a coffee shop? Tell me more about that. So on.
Thank you very much. You can ask these questions, or even you can put a picture. Coffee shop, and people, a picture of a coffee shop, people are talking and walking and around and serving people. Yes. So look at the picture. Where is it? And they start talking about it. Do you like to work in Starbucks? How do you, Amanda? Why don't, or why yes? Okay. And then, what do you think about it? Do you think it's very difficult? Do you have experience working in the coffee shop like Tim Horton or Starbucks? Do you think it's easy? Yeah, or it's difficult? You can ask these kind of questions, right? They get familiar always about a coffee shop and people who's working in a coffee shop, right? Then I said, we need to help our students to concentrate. So I need some activities. And so now you're going to listen to someone who's just opened a coffee shop. So what about the activity? To check their general comprehension.
This is still the pre-listening.
Yes.
Okay.
So what would you say?
Maybe we can give a questionnaire before we start while listening, and they have to fill it up. For example, what the other person is ordering, for how many people, how much is he paying. So if we listen to the conversation, he will get the answer for these questions. So in the pre-listening stage, we give them questions which they can read before they listen, and while they're listening, they're supposed to
They find the answer. Yeah, thank you. That's good. Or what's the name of the person? What about his hidden talent?
Right.
Okay. Very general questions, 3, 4 general questions, and said, okay, I want you to listen and then answer to these questions. So in this way, you help the students to concentrate, to be active listener, right? To be an active listener. Then they get to the while listening task. So it's a part that you need to practice. So you repeat the question. Yes, Danilo.
Oh no, just to ask, like, could we, if let's just say it is a business idea that they want to, build upon, could we like get them to describe it? Like, is it fun? Is it inviting? Is it going to be big? Is it going to be a small thing? Like, just so they can kind of get used to the vocabs they're learning and then put that towards the overall objective or general goal. Does that make sense?
I mean the questions about the listening, right?
Like, I would just say for them to describe it. Like, instead of asking them questions, it's more like describe, okay, if you're going to
Oh,
open up a
describe
business,
for higher level, right? For
yeah,
higher
for
level, for
mhm,
higher level, right?
yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So in while listening task, they have to go through more detail, so more detailed questions. You check them some of the words to be sure they know the words, and it's a part even if they can, if it, at the level that they can, they get the idea from the listening, and they practice in pairs to talk about their own career. I have this study. How long have they been doing? Do you like it or they want to change it? In pairs, it's a part that they practice. What's the role of the teacher? Monitoring, listen to them, help them, and correct them. Then post listening test is a part to get the feedback. So they start to talk about their own career. Like I say, each student talks for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And the other students can ask questions. And I want everybody use the new vocabulary. Mm-hmm. So in this way, you check with your student. Okay, is that clear so far? Yes?
You
The
know,
phases, is it clear?
yes, it's clear. I have a question. So, pre-listening, while listening, post-listening, is there a template, that you use, for example, or that we could sort of access?
So
Because
in process, in your listening, when you want to write a lesson plan, in the process part, you say pre, while, post. Then you say what you do in pre. So see different ideas, how you put your students in the context, how you ask the questions. Okay. What you prepare for them. Like I said, I put a picture. So what's the material you need? So there is no specific steps. It depends on the level of the students. It depends on their interest. It depends the strategy that you choose, right? The the steps is the same pre, while, post, like pre reading task, while, and post. Pre prepares students for the lesson, while means how you practice, and post is the part that you get the feedback. But what about the stages, or what about the methods? It depends on you and this level and the students and the need of the students.
If,
Okay.
if I can interject with an idea, for this kind of a situation, it might be fun if you're a Tim Hortons fan and you have the time, you could bring some coffee to class
Yeah.
and get people started, and you can have some vocabulary, and then you've got this thing in your hand. We're talking about all the things that surround this. So you've got that hands-on experience, which from my experiences makes it more memorable and fun, right? To
Yeah, that's it.
recreate that environment as much as you can. I know I like
Yes.
coffee a lot. And I'm like, if I can have an excuse to drink more quality coffee, I'm going to be in on that and bring people along for the ride. So that's my idea for the pre-listening.
Yeah, perfect. So see, you can have more, I mean, you can have different ideas, but make it fun. That's correct. It's going to be memorable. They'll never forget about the lesson. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So leading could be different, but make it more memorable. And depends on their needs. Remember that we have students that their learning styles are different. No, not all of them are auditory that we just explain and ask questions. Some of them are visual. So they need to see. So we need pictures. Even some of them are kinesthetic. They need to touch it, like having the Tim Hortons cups in the class. They really love that. Even you can start with a video, right? It's a silent video, like a video in the coffee shop, and say, hey, what about the conversation? What's happening here? What are they talking about? Then they listen to the conversation, like the one that he said, Ashwati said, they listen to the conversation in the coffee shop, so they can watch the video, silent video first. So it depends. It depends on the students, as I said, and their interest. For lower level, now higher level, you don't have problem for vocabulary teaching, but definitely for lower level, you need to pre-teach keywords. You definitely need to pre-teach the keywords. And we have you remember in reading, we have bottom up and top down. So what's the difference? Do you remember what was the difference between those two procedures, bottom up and top down questions or procedure? You remember that? Yeah, here, bottom up and top down. Top down are the questions that you check their listening comprehension, bigger picture. They listen and they give you a summary. They listen and they ask the answer comprehension questions. So you just check their understanding. But bottom up is the part that you focus on the linguistic parts. Like you focus on the grammar part. You focus on the new vocabulary. When you ask them to fill in the blanks with the proper words, is it top down or bottom up activity? Fill in the blanks. You give them some sentences and said, I want you to listen and fill in the blanks, like write the proper words in the blanks. So is it working on top down strategy or bottom up? Which one?
Top down?
I say bottom up.
Yeah, because bottom up is on linguistic part.
Okay.
So they need to learn the vocabulary and how to pronounce it, how to spell it, the grammar part. That is bottom up. But if you ask like, what's the name of the person, or when has he started to work, or what was his hidden talent, is it top down or bottom up?
Bottom up?
Top down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because it's let me give you let me show you here. So this is the listening. It said it's about Mario. So you can show the picture to the students and say, hey, what do you think on the first picture, this picture, on the first picture? Can you guess what's happening here? What's it about? Tell me, what's it when you look at this picture? And then the second picture, what do you understand from the picture?
I can jump in if nobody else is going to
Yeah. Go ahead, Michelle.
Mario is a child on the left. He's watching a female in his life doing some things in the kitchen. He's not looking out the window. He's like, okay, this seems all right. Look at that. He seems interested. And then we come over here and look at Mario. He's a good-looking young man. He's dominating the coffee world from the look of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Same shirt. That's a problem.
Yeah, he's wearing the same shirt too. He needs some fashion advice, but hey.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then he said, okay, I want everybody to listen to the listening and answer what was Mario's hidden talent? When did he start to use his talent? And how did he use his talent to change his job? Then you play the audio.
That's like a top down.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they get the picture. They get the picture of what's happening in this listening. And then when they answer it, you take their comprehension, general comprehension. Then you go through it for the second time and say, now look at these sentences. I'm always cooking. Or then in my 20s, I started to. So these sentences are from the listening, but they cannot feel it in the way that they like. They have to listen and find the specific word and fill in the blanks with correct spelling. So they have to listen and write the word. This is which one? Top down or bottom up?
Bottom up.
That's bottom up. Why? Because they need to find the proper word and they have to write it in the correct way, it's the correct spelling. And when they read out the sentence with the correct pronunciation, not any words that they want. So when we in listening and in reading, both intensive listening and intensive reading, the listening and the reading that study in the class, first they get the picture, they comprehend what's happening in this context in the listening or in the reading, then they learn the vocabulary and they review the grammar. So comprehension and linguistic part, top down, bottom up. But when you ask them to listen to this music at home, or maybe in the class or at home, and go through it and fill in the blanks, filling the blanks. Can they write any words that they like? No. Again, they have to write exactly the word that they heard it on the listening, right? So again, this is bottom up. So even in extensive listening, you can work on bottom up. You can work on words, which is fine because the students practice the new words and they learn the words. If you said, okay, what's this song about? And said it's about the Englishman in New York. He's talking about the situation. He's in the coffee shop. Then he compares the culture in England and in New York. This is top down. They have the picture. But when they want to fill in the blanks, we work on the new vocabulary. Is it clear now? Do you understand what's the difference between top down and bottom up? And we have to work on both of them, not just ask general comprehension question, but also we have to review the words and the grammar with our students. Is it clear now to everybody?
Yes, it's
yes?
clear.
So, and in books like how to teach the language, you will see these phrases, top down and bottom up. So it's good to know what this phrase is about. Here's another example for children. Listen and number the picture. So is it top down or bottom up?
Top down.
It's bottom up.
They have to listen to the story and order the pictures. So they have to get the idea, right? They have to get the idea. What does she do every day? But here, they have to listen to different people. And they don't talk. They say, I'm a nurse. I work at the hospital. I'm a firefighter. I work at the fire station. So they just listen to the word and write it down with the correct spelling. This is bottom up, exactly. You're checking. They're listening. They understand the pronunciation. Nurse, not nurse, not first. It's nurse to spell it correctly. Okay. So when you want to plan for your students, this is important. Work on comprehension part and linguistic, both. Not only what was it about, also for the new words or for the vocabulary or for the grammar part. This is another example for children. They have to listen to the dialogue. Peggy talking about his parents. So they listen, then they go through the questions. Listen and check. This is another way.
This is still bottom up,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Teacher, barber, cashier. Here is another one. Listen and circle. So they listen. I show it from easy to difficult. This is very easy. They order it, they write the words, then they listen and multiple choice. Here is, they listen to different news and it said what happened. What happened at the, oh, I'm sorry. What happened at the barber shop? What happened at the clinic? Or what happened at the, what was it? Clinic and restaurant. Mm-hmm. So they listen to the stories and then they have to match and complete the part. What happened in each places. Easy to difficult for children. These kind of activities goes for a while. They practice the words, they practice the comprehension, and then it becomes more challenging and more difficult to understand it better. But what about post? Here is the part. Now they listen to the different listening about chef, nurse, doctors, police officer, teacher, and firefighter. So at the end, and say, where do they work and what's their job? This is post. So they start to talk. She's a police officer. She works at the police station. That is what does she do? Or he. So that's the post part for children. They talk about what they have learned. Let's go for listening. For lesson planning. Mm-hmm. When you want to write a lesson plan for the listening part, there are some important questions you need to ask yourself. Number one, what is the aim of the lesson? How this part, the listening, is related to the aim of the whole lesson. Okay? So, what is the terminal objective? At the end of this part, what is my expectation? Now, to get to that terminal objective, to that expectation, what do they need to learn? Like what vocabulary they need to learn. You need to make a list. These are for new vocabulary or they learn in the listening part. 2, are they going to review any grammar? What's the grammar they review? We reviewed this grammar. This part calls enabling objectives. So terminal objectives is the final aim, main aim of the lesson. Enabling objectives like help the students to get to that final aim. Now, what is next, you ask yourself? Okay, what are my stages? How I'm going to teach this? How I'm going to teach the vocabulary? How I'm going to review the grammar? What activities I need to prepare for the class? These are the things you need to think about before start writing. So you think about the aim, you think about the concept and process, how we start. The stages, how we start the class or how I start this part. How do they practice and how do I get the feedback? What do they know? If I start asking them about their career, do they work or they're housewives? If I want to start to ask them about the daily routines, like in the picture, or different activities, do they know enough words to talk about it? So what do students know? If they don't know many words, they're for lower levels. Okay, what kind of picture I take it to the class? Like elicitation, what do they is a part that you want to check what do they know and how you can connect it to the unknown, to the new part. When you want to start write your listening, The lesson plan, I'm sorry. What do you want to write write the lesson plan? What is the very first thing? What's the level of your students? What's the level of the students? What's the background? What do they know? That assumption. Then what is the topic of the class or of the lesson? And what's the final result of this session, which we call it terminal objective? You have to mention it, and it should be clear. By the end of this lesson, the students can what? It should be very clear. Don't put very general phrases like talking about carrier or carriers. It's not clear. So by the end of the lesson, the students will be able to talk about different carriers or talk about their own carriers. And they can use, then we get to the enabling. Okay? Enabling. These are the words they learn. So in linguistic part, what are the vocabulary? You need the list, or you say, I have attached it to the lesson plan. The grammar, what grammar you review. You review. In the listening part, you usually review the grammar. You're not going to teach it. Even you say, they become more confident because I put them in pairs through process, they become more fluent, accurate. It's not only vocabulary and grammar. Even your students practice more and they become more fluent in talking, or they become more accurate in talking. They listen to different podcasts and they practice, so they become more accurate and fluent. Meanwhile, not every time everything goes on the proper plan that you brought to the class. Also, there are maybe some problems pops up. We call it anticipated problems. Like what? You start the class, and in this session, you're reviewing like past tense. Or in French, masculine and feminine words. But they cannot remember. They cannot remember. Like irregular verbs, they cannot remember the past tense. That problem may happen, right? Or the listening is about Japan and like the cuisines and different thing about Japan. They have no idea.
Is this something that you have to put in your teaching plan, or this is just something, for you to, sort of think about?
To get prepared. So that's what we say. Depends on the level and depends on your students. You need to anticipate problems. You need to think about the problems. If this happen, how prepared you are. If my students have no idea about Japan, how should I ask and how should I know? And if they said they have no idea about Japan and they just look at you, so what would you do? First, you tell me. What would you do?
I would show them a map.
A map.
This is where Japan is, and yes.
Or a video.
Or a video.
So you need to be prepared. You prepare an activity, you get to the class, but you look at the students, they are really bored. They don't like that activity. So what's plan B? So we're always, as a prepared teacher, as a professional teacher, you always have plan B. They don't like it? So it happens. It happens even to me. I'm so excited about that activity. They look at me like this. I cannot continue because it's their class. They won't learn. So I shifted. Always think about plan B. Michelle, do you have any experience yeah?
I know my face is an orchestra over here because I have, one of the early thoughts I had is, you've had a student in class and then they miss a class, they come to the next class, they have no idea what they're covering. They're they have no ability to review what they don't know. like you said, I've had
Exactly.
students looking at me, they're clearly very bored. So sometimes I'll speed things up, or I will give them an opportunity to vote on a couple of other options that I have up my sleeve. So then I've got their buy-in, because if they're bored, they're not learning. They don't want to
No,
come.
they won't.
So just
And
what
they
you
hate the
said.
class too.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Exactly. They're gonna hate the class too. So option is very good idea. You can do that too. Okay, everybody, you don't say you don't like this activity. What about we start this one? Which one? Do you want to continue with this activity, or we shift it to the other one? And let's see what they say. They say, no, let's do the other one. Okay, let's do that. So always have plan B. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they are confused, as you said, like the session before, we talk about cohesive devices, how to use however, although, and blah, blah, blah in your writing. And some of the students were absent. So this time, when you are talking about how to write essay and complex and compound sentences, they look at you. So you cannot go over everything that you taught last session, but what were you going to do? Like an activity, put them in pairs. You have some worksheets, and then you put them in pairs with the ones that they were in the session before. So when they have time in pairs to do that activity, they go over it and you monitor them, give them some hints. So what I try to say, you don't want to lose a session, but you have to be wise enough to have another plan. If the plan A doesn't work, you go for plan B. So always works on to start to think about your class. Okay, what if this happened? We call it anticipated problems. In your lesson plan, you can add it. Actually, you can add it. If it doesn't work, this is my second plan or a plan B. You can add that part too. But this is my recommendation. Always have plan B in your class. Even so you prepare something on your laptop, and then you want to start your PowerPoint. It happens to me actually. The PowerPoint doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't come up. Something happened. That's technology, right? So what could I do? I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, my PowerPoint doesn't work." So we call off the class. No. So you have to share the worksheet. You have to play the video on YouTube. So that's plan B. Mm-hmm. Okay. And another important point on your lesson plan is said in TESOL lesson plan is said introduction. And usually in the teaching books, it said, or teaching strategy books, it said warmers and icebreakers. Think about icebreakers. For all levels, for all age groups, students get bored. You need some icebreakers. Depends on the level and the age of your students. Like for children, they need move up activities. It's impossible. I'm telling you, it's impossible. You make them to sit 90 minutes. No. So even teenagers need some kind of just pair working, group working, move up, or this thing. So think about icebreakers. Maybe they watch a video. Maybe you play a kind of music. Maybe you tell a joke. Maybe you ask them some kind of questions. Very general, depends on their interest. You ask them some questions, or kind of activities in the class, or maybe you run a game in the class. Like in your online classes, there's a site called Bamboozer. Bamboozer, it's like games online, or you can use Kahoot. You share a link and they say, okay, let's have 5 minutes game. They love it. So think about icebreakers in between, or warmers, how to start the class. We have leading, usually in the teaching books, you will see two phrases, warmers and leading. What's the difference? Many people, they say they're the same, but there's a little bit difference between them. Warmers means how you start the class with general questions about weather, about the hockey games, about different matches, basketball match, very, very general. Oh, you were absent. Okay. Or something happened in the community. This is warmers. So people just, you break the ice, you boost the energy, you boost the rapport in the class. That's warmers. But leading is a part that you want to put the students in the context for the lesson. Do you get it? So that's a little bit different. Like warmers is like warm up. If you want to do any kind of sports, they start with warm up activities, like to get ready for that sport. So warmers means that. So think about something fun, something nice, something that they like to talk about. If they are all in the class or most of the students in the class watch about the series, you can talk about the last episode or what happened last week, for 2 or 3 minutes. Just boost the energy in the class.
May I interject?
Yeah, sure.
Just as an idea here, what I've found works well is looking at upcoming holidays or occasions or celebratory events. Like if it's fall, we can talk about Halloween. If it's Remembrance Day, we can talk about that. Talk about Festival of Lights, la 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 la. Just different things that are happening nationally and regionally are a good place to kind of dive in, I found.
Yes, perfect. Perfect. That's very good. That's very good. Exactly. Thank you. So another important point when you want to write your lesson plan, we remember our students have different ways of learning. So what do I prepare for visual learners? What do I prepare for auditory learners? Enough activity like for pair working that they can discuss, they can talk. Okay. Or maybe I get audio. What about reading and writing? They need to take notes. They need to fill in the blanks. They need to answer to the questions. They need to read the instructions. This is the way they learn. What about kinesthetics? Hands in, like games, role play, acting. So consider all learners. Okay. The one who likes to talk about it. So group working. Or even some students, really, they need individual time. So give them thinking time. Like for 1 or 2 activities, they say, okay, it's individual. First, do it individually so they have thinking time. They can review it by themselves. Second, check it with your friend. So in pairs or in groups, they discuss it. So my point is consider all learners. And when you want to choose the activity, you remember the very first session, we said the very first step is know your students. So think about what do they enjoy? What do they enjoy? What's their need? And the goal of the session and the goal of the term. For adults, usually they want to know, what did they learn today? Okay. But usually not for children, even for adolescents. Maybe you say it, but children not really, because they keep asking you a question. They don't understand it. But for the adults, they like to know what's the goal of the session? What did they learn in this session? Even at the end of the session, you can review. Okay, now, can you talk about your career? They say, yes. Okay. Can you talk about the different features of your work? Yes. So you can review with them that, what you learned today. It gives them a very good self-confidence. Then you can think about the aims. What do you need to take to the class? How can you practice? Have you considered all learners and how you can manage it as a group working, pair working in your online class, like breakout rooms? And then time, how much time do you need for each activity in your lesson plan? You have to mention the time. And then when you finish it, you have to review that. Is it relevant to the aim of the course? And is it simple enough? And is that clear enough? I said your lesson plan is like your roadmap. If it is too complicated, it's even difficult for yourself. It's even difficult for yourself. So it needs to be simple, relevant, and logic. Okay? To the level of consider the level of your students. It shouldn't be too challenging and it shouldn't be too easy for the students. So you write this is a part for the listening. The topic, what's the topic of the lesson? How many students? So when you go through it, this is activity for 4 students in the class, 10 students in the class, or 20 students in the class. It shows how logical you choose, or how logic is the activity that you choose for the class. And then level of the students for lower levels, grade 1, 2, or 10, college, or high school, university students. And then what about their interests or background? What is their first language? Like they're learning Spanish, what's their first language? English. They're learning English, what's their first language? They're Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Persian, and Spanish. Why it is important? Because sometimes you have to work hard on pronunciation, especially in the listening and the speaking part. On pronunciation, stress, intonation. Then time. What's the time of the lesson? The whole, it's 90 minutes. What about the listening part? Is it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes? And where is it? Is it online, in person? What material you take to the class? Audio, video? You need pictures? You need worksheets? So everything should be attached to your lesson plan. What is the terminal objective for the whole session? And what's the enabling objective? What they learn in the listening part? Then you start introduction. How do you start your class? Warmer. How do you start it? Are you going to review the previous? How? So you have to rate it. Then process the activities. Pre, while, post. Put them in the context. Prepare them. Do you need to pre-teach the keywords? Which keywords you pre-teach? Okay. And then why? How do you practice? What about the different activities? Listen and repeat. Guess. Fill in the blanks. What? Answer to the questions. Then post. How do you assess your students? How do you get the feedback? Role play? Give you a summary? Write the context? What's the assessment part? How do you get the feedback that they learn? And you have to attach everything to the lesson plan and assignment. What's the further practice at home? If the listening in the class is about career, so what are you going to listen to at home? Good. This is how you put the listening in your lesson plan. But I review the whole thing because terminal objective for the whole whole time of the class. But just some part of it is for listening. Usually for 90 minutes, you can work on 2 skills or maybe if it's the 3 skills, not more than that. It depends on the skills. Like if it is writing takes a long time, like 40 minutes. You cannot wrap up everything in 20 minutes. But listening, maybe it's faster. Speaking, yes. Reading, you need a long time, right? Because they have to go through it, the scheming, the scanning. So in each session, like 90 minutes or 75 minutes, 2 skills mostly, not more than that. When you plan it, it depends on the level, but I don't think so. You can work on 4 skills in 90 minutes. It's almost impossible. Now's the time for asking your questions. Any questions?
I have a doubt. The when